Your employee is driving home from work and they get in a car accident. Is that company liable? How far does an owner have to go to take care of people? And how far do they go to the point that is unreasonable expectation to be asked? Is that owner of that very secret location obstacle course now responsible for that person once they've gone to the hospital? I, from day one, have always said, hello, everybody. How are we doing? Oh, man. A rising tide floats all boats. That is the motto. That's what we're always going for. This one's going to be a little bit different, though. I'm actually going to be going after that, talking to you about, the software, talking about business strategies and whatnot. I'm going to talk about a philosophical question here. I'm going to hop right into it. This has kind of been a source of contention between me and my friend. Not against each other, but just trying to figure out what is the right thing to do and what would have been the right thing as a human being to do. So I'm going to give you guys a scenario. I'm going to make it up because this scenario that happened for real, I can't really divulge due to NDAs and all the fun stuff that I've signed in the past. So here's the scenario. Let's see here. How do I want to, got to think this up on the fly here because I can't tell the truth. But you guys will get the idea of this. All right, here we go. I got one. You guys have all been to a Spartan Race or a Tough Mudder race, right? You get there, you sign up, you sign a waiver, and then you start the course. Sometime throughout that course, you get hurt. Now, Spartan Races, Tough Mudders, whatever the adventure is, I'm not picking on any of them. They have done a really good job of going above and beyond, right? What do they do as an owner? They set up an obstacle course for you to go see how good your strength is, your agility, your endurance, right? They're trying to see they're helping you push your own limits. Very cool concept. They rent a place, you pay them money to go run their obstacle course, and they tear it down and move it someplace else. Very cool, very neat, amazing. But that's the end of their business plan, right? Build obstacle courses, let people come and run them for a day or for the weekend and leave. And they say, okay, but some people might get hurt. So as a business owner, they go, okay, because some people are going to get hurt, we better get with the local paramedics. We better talk to them and say, hey, how much to have an ambulance on staff? How much to have 2 ambulances on staff? It's a very long obstacle course. There's going to be scenarios where, you might have somebody and somebody's going on. If we have, let's say, 3,000 people, how many ambulances do you believe that we should have on staff? And they're going to go through these couple scenarios. Think about it. So you as a patron, you get hurt, whatever happens. And you have the ability to get picked up by paramedics and taken to a local hospital to be taken care of. Is the place on the hook? First philosophical question. Even though you signed a waiver, are they on the hook for your medical expenses? Number 2, is that organization now responsible for you until you actually make it back to a place where you can call safe? Now, safe could be their actual home. Safe could be where they originally left their vehicle for the race. Safe could be with their family at a third location. But are we responsible, or are we responsible for that? So the philosophical question is where does it end? Where does the responsibilities of the owner of the business that puts on the event, where does his or her responsibilities end? It's a really good question when you think about it, because their goal this whole time was build an obstacle course. That's it. Their goal was not make sure you stay hydrated, even though they do that. Their job is to make sure that you stay fed. Their job is to make sure that you get pictures of yourself while they're running. Their job is to not take ambulances and bring out safety people to make sure that you're okay if you do get hurt, if you screw up. And yet they do all these things as extracurricular activities. Amazing, great. But at the same time, where does it end? So we had a scenario come up. And now let's take this philosophical question. Let's go one step further. Say you sign up for one of these events, Spartan, Tough Mudder, whatever. But the difference is you were blindfolded and bagged over your head and driven for an hour out in Timbuktu in no man's land. Then you had to start the race. Then you get hurt and you have to go get medical attention at a hospital. Now, If you're at a Spartan Race or a Tough Mudder, that liability and responsibility, once you've been taken from the paramedics and go to the hospital, they're done. They're out. No event coordinator comes back and gets you from the hospital, brings you back to your car, make sure your family knows what's going on. They don't do any of that. That's above and beyond. They already took one step outside of their circle of business and said, hey, we'll have paramedics on standby just for you guys. But in this particular case, this particular runner on the new scenario has no idea where he or she is. So when she gets taken in the hospital, she's not looking outside. There's no windows on this ambulance. She has no idea where he or she is. Well, they put a bag over your head for a reason, right? They don't want you to know where they are. This is some, secret location of where they're going to be. So now the question becomes, small segue here. Want to talk to you guys about Square Coil software and what it does for your companies. If you're the type of guy that's still doing pen and paper and you think you're rocking and rolling, you just might be, but you're not running at the most efficient pace possible for yourself. Imagine doing a report. You want to know how many sales each salesperson did for the entire year. So you sit down, you get all your books out, and it takes you 2-3 hours to build this Excel spreadsheet, and you got your answer. But what if you could just click a button, and then your 2 or 3 hours are back in your hands, and you can evoke change inside of your company for those 2-3 hours versus building a report? That's what Square Coil software does for you. That's what we bring to the table in the way of efficiency. So check us out if you're not using us. Is that owner of that very secret location obstacle course now responsible for that person once they've gone to the hospital? Where does it start? Where does it stop? This debate went back and forth for about me and 2 of my friends for probably an hour, where we talked about what's right, what's wrong, what should be done, what shouldn't be done, and everything in between. And while we were kicking this thing back and forth, it brought up a lot of very interesting questions of, at what stage do we have to say the participant has to take ownership of the situation? At what point in time they have to be responsible for their own well-being, their own health, and what happens to them has to be their responsibility. For example, your employee is driving home from work and they get in a car accident. Is that company liable? 99.9% of the time, no, they're not liable. Why? We weren't in control of the car. We as an owner were not in control of that car. They were going off and doing something on their own. They were on their own time, off the clock, doing their own thing. Now, let's say we went to a Christmas party and that employee got too intoxicated and decided to drive home and gets a DUI. Who's responsible? Well, in the lovely state of California, there is some culpability on the owner's part that employee should have been cut off and taken care of. They're at the Christmas party and not been allowed to drive home. Now, personally, for me, I think that's a ridiculously far stretch. I didn't put a gun to that employee's head. I didn't tell them to drink. I didn't tell them to get in the car and drive. They should have taken responsibility on their own. So you have that viewpoint. The other viewpoint is, well, yes, but going back to our philosophical question of the race at some distant, crazy location, but they don't know where they were. They don't know how to get back. They don't know where their family is. They have no idea where it is. They're just stuck at a hospital. Now what? And so this debate goes back and forth of how far does an owner have to go to take care of people, and how far do they go to the point that is unreasonable expectation to be asked? This sounds kind of odd, right? How is signage and sign owners, how does this relate to us? Aaron, you're going way off topic here. No, I'm not. The question is you as an owner, you have to figure out in your head where you draw the line of what you're responsible for and what you're not. You're going to have to take your local and state codes and laws into consideration when you do that. But even then, there is some consideration there. In the state of California, for me, if somebody gets hurt and they have to go to urgent care at my shop, I am responsible for getting them to the hospital. That's it. Once they have hit the hospital, they're no longer my responsibility. They're the hospital's responsibility. Everything that happens after that hospital is that own person's responsibility or the hospital's responsibility. I don't agree to that. If I took them to the hospital, how are they supposed to get back? If they're hurt, they probably can't drive a motor vehicle. So now what do I do? So me personally, I go above and beyond for my team. I had a gentleman about a year ago got very hurt. We had another employee sit with him until 6, 7 p.m. until he got checked out and brought home. Then we drove him home, and another employee drove his vehicle home and made sure that he was at his own house with his own vehicle before we said, now we're taking off the responsibility hook. we're going to move away. We're going to go home and enjoy our peaceful lives and our personal lives. State says I don't have to do that. But what's right? What is right? What is wrong? In this particular case, where the event that we went to, they let the individual go to the hospital, and that was it. It was game over. They take no responsibility, no help to get them back, no help to tell them, hey, this is the address you're at. This is what's going on. None of it. All of it was completely abandoned, and that individual had to fend for themselves to get back, which to this day, I still have no idea how he got back or understood where he was, because there was no address. There was no knowing of where they were, what's going on. When I think of those scenarios, I always got to think back to, what would I do? And you have to ask yourself the same question. At what point in time do you draw the line? At what point in time do you say, this is what's right regardless of the laws, and stand your ground and say, this is what needs to be done? More than likely, you're going to go above and beyond what the basic laws say. More than likely, you're going to be a good person. I, from day one, have always said, take care of my team, take care of my employees, and they're going to take care of me. I have always known that no matter what they need, I'm going to provide it the best way I physically can. Because then when push comes to shove, when the business is hurting, they're going to step up and reciprocate that. They're going to help me out because I've helped them out. Unfortunately, when you're at the top and you're the owner, all eyes are on you. All eyes are looking at you, and whatever you do, they now feel that is the acceptable norm. Anytime you do something, they're going to go, I get to do it too. You have a magnifying glass, a spotlight on you at all times, and you cannot change that. I'm sorry. That is the way the world works. So be a good person. Take care of the people above and beyond. That's going to come back to you tenfold. But in this philosophical debate, I will say that me and my two friends at the end ended up all being on the same page, that doing more is the better way to go about it. And at the end of the day, we're going to sleep better at night. But at the beginning, we were all sitting there going, at what place do we draw this line? At what place is the responsibility not ours? This is ridiculous. They signed up. They signed the waiver. They moved on. And at the beginning, we all agreed that, no, it's not our responsibility. But at the end of the day, as we kicked the can around a little bit more, we realized, yeah, having and giving more responsibility and helping others out, maybe if it isn't your responsibility, but helping others out more than you think you should, it always pays dividends in the end. And that was the conclusion all three of us came to. I thought it was an interesting topic. I want to share with everybody. I'll talk to you next week.